what if I could have this level of transformation like on a daily basis, right?
Yes.
It seems like you basically that became the case
It became my life. And not only did I have transformation, but I also was a catalyst for millions of other people's transformation through spreading messages of transformation outside of Joe, other people too. And it just became my life. It was incredible. Until this day, it's now fast forward. We work with, a handful of different spiritual leaders, and I have a team of 6 people now, and it's rapidly growing. So it's amazing. And in the whole like full spectrum of the story, I've almost met, besides one person, I've met every single person from The Secret.
Wow.
And worked with a lot of them too.
You briefly mentioned like network marketing or something like that. How do you pay for the Mercedes? How do you get that?
Oh, it was through a what do they call it? It was like a bonus you got in the company by having a certain amount of like revenue generated and sales associates on your team.
It was like a sales bonus.
Yes, but it was through the company, so it was not necessarily coming out of your own pocket. So it was essentially a free car.
And what were you selling?
Oh, it was like these healthy supplements and drinks and healthy energy drinks, stuff like that.
Do you remember the name of the company?
Yeah, it was called Vima.
And so do you you were hiring what did that look like just in high school? Like how do you get into it? And then what was that hustle like?
Oh man,
was that the first hustle you had? And
yeah, that was that was really my first real hustle. I just got, let me think about the story for a second. So I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, and keep in mind I'm like 16 years old at this time, and there was this guy there. His name was Brad. Shout out Brad Zarzicki. And he just essentially told me about this company and was like, yo, you can sell these energy drinks. If you get other people to sell them too, you guys can like make a lot of money. There's like really good commission. And then if they have other people sell it or get customers, then you build like this sales team. And I don't know what it was, but it was very attractive to me. It seems so easy. It seems so doable. Like, oh, like I just gotta show people what I see to become a part of this product and then sell it to other people. And then because my chain and the link influenced them to come on board, if they go get 1,000 people, I still get benefits from that, because if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have like known about the opportunity. But here's the cool thing was that if they had like different requirements, they could actually make more than me. So it was never like, it was actually a team. You wanted both of the people to win. And I love that concept. And I just went like a crazy man. I signed up and just started like telling all my friends about it. And at that same time, I watched The Secret. So my belief that it was possible was through the roof, which influenced everyone around me. And like within a short span, I had over a couple hundred people on my team.
Holy shit.
Yeah, at 16. Yeah, I had people from high school, like their parents. It was crazy, man. It was so fun. Such a great time. Yeah.
And so were you the main guy doing this at your high school? You mentioned Brad. Like, was he the guy before you that kind of like introduced it? Or like,
yeah, Brad introduced it, and there was other people above him that introduced it to him. But I really ran with it.
And how much were you making from that?
At the peak, I was making a little bit over $2,000 a month.
Okay, which for a high schooler is awesome.
I felt like I was rich. I mean, I had no expenses. Like I was like, my parents paid for groceries. I lived at home. Yeah. I was riding around in a free car, and I was making like 25. I don't remember. I think it was like 25 maybe it was a little more. Maybe it was like 3,000 at the peak. Yeah, it was incredible, man.
That's wild. What was the next thing after that?
So after that, I was in that for a while. The company ended up getting a lawsuit, and everybody's income shut off overnight, including mine, because I forget, the SEC or something like froze the company's assets, so they couldn't pay their distributors.
Was it just curious? Was it because it was like sort of like a pyramid type business? Is that why they got sued or?
No, that's what a lot of people think. They didn't actually, they won the lawsuit, but the SEC I can't remember exactly, it's so long ago, whatever froze the assets because of health claims.
Gotcha.
People were saying like the supplement that they were selling is curing cancer and different stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And you can't say that. Like you need hard evidence.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's essentially what happened. So the company got froze. I needed income. I had just moved out at the time. So I was living.
Were you a senior in high school or was this in college?
No,
or
this is
after high school?
college because I was in that for a while. I think almost 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't go to college, but it was, the year after senior year.
Okay. So I guess before you transition, basically you were making good money. So you're like, I don't need to go to college. Was that kind of like the thought process? Like I'm already making bank with this Vima thing. Like, why don't I just keep doing this?
Yeah, I didn't think Vima was going to be my end all be all. I just knew deep down that I was never good at school. I cheated my way through everything. I just not good at regurgitated information that I'm not passionate about. So I knew from the time I was like 13 that I wasn't going to go to college.
Gotcha.
And Vima, it wasn't so much that Vima was the vehicle. It was more so that through Vima, I got introduced more to different personal development teachers, like Bob Proctor and other like amazing spiritual leaders and just the Jack Canfields of the world and people like that. And I learned that most wildly successful people didn't go to school, didn't go to college. Some of the most rich people in the world actually didn't go to college. And that always stuck out to me because I was like, I didn't believe like to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, I need to get a degree to do that. Like I would rather just find mentors and people who've done it in the real world other than a professor. No bash on school. This was just my thought process. And yeah, that's essentially what happened.
Sweet. And so what happened that first year, like basically when Vima's assets got frozen and you weren't getting an income stream from that?
I freaked the heck out, man. It was like the world was crashing. I will say though, you're asking really good questions because most people don't usually dive this deep on my story in interviews. I remember, and this will show you the mindset of the people I was associating myself with at this time. And I guess the way the story has been told is a little skewed in the sense because this may not make sense, but I'll break it down. So when I was in Vima, I was associating with very young, successful people, like in high school days. So my like law of association, my friend group, my peer group was super powerful and was inspiring me, which I had said earlier when I moved to LA, that went away, but that's years later. So we're peeling the layers back here. So Vima, I felt like I was on top of things in my life. And the people I was with when the company shut down, one of the guys was making like over 20 grand a month. He was only like 23 years old, 24 years old. So people made serious money in this thing. He was one of my mentors. And him, myself, a few others, a few buddies actually I'm friends with now, really close in LA. We went to his house and he was celebrating. He had just lost like $20,000+ a month, but he was celebrating it. They literally bought champagne and popped bottles because their mindsets were so developed. They knew that this was happening for them. They had no idea how, they had no idea why, but they knew some greater good was happening because they knew they were applying these principles of the universe and law of attraction and this and that. So I got to experience these individuals like celebrating what to me felt like a disaster. And it just changed my paradigm, man. I was like, damn, like they really think this is a good thing. Like it is a good thing, you know?
Dude, this feels like a movie scene where you're like, Holy shit, what's going on?
Totally, man. Totally. Reality ended up setting in for me. And, those guys ended up finding another opportunity similar to the one they were in. But I didn't feel that was my calling anymore.
Mhm.
And one of my homies had been working with a door-to-door sales company,
Okay.
selling AT&T, like internet and TV and stuff, door to door. And he was like, bro, I'm like making 1,000 a week. It's amazing. It's actually really fun. You should come check it out, do an interview. So long story short, ended up doing that. But at 17, 18 years old, or no, I was a little older now. I think I was almost 19 at that time, just say 18. I was now stuck with a $600 a month car payment with no income. And I never saved money. Like, you kidding me? I thought I was rich.
Got so that bonus car you got, it was basically probably like it was like a down payment on the car, or was this a different car you're talking
No, no,
about?
no. This is the Mercedes. So
Gotcha.
the company took care of the monthly payments, but
Uh-huh.
the loan was in my name.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I had just also moved out. So I now had rent and a car payment. And my rent, I was living in like a two bedroom apartment in East Lansing, Michigan, right by Michigan State, because that's where all
Uh-huh.
these guys lived. And yeah, man, it was incredibly scary because I was like, oh my gosh, I moved out. All my income, my standard of living is gone. No more
Yeah.
income. Got to figure it out. So I didn't waste much time. I was like, I gotta make money, or I'm not gonna be able to afford all this stuff. So that's when I started working with the sales company, and man, door to door sales, that was a whole nother thing. Didn't stay long, less than a year, but it allowed me to kind of double down on my finances, learn some sales tactics, working like directly door to door with people. And we did it through the winter in Michigan, which is like snowy. It was crazy, man. Builds that
Yep.
character for sure. And then I started seeing one of my friends who was also in the Vima company started to work with this guy named Bob Proctor, who's like, he was in The Secret, master of kind of the law of attraction, and he teaches this through different books and workshops. And then I saw he was starting this company called Vibe Source, and I just reached out to him, and I was like, dude, I'll work for you for free. Like, I just want to be a part of this. And to make a long story short, I ended up working, at the time, this was while I was like in the sales job at AT&T. To give you some context, I was super unsatisfied. Like, the first 6 months were great, like anything. But then I was like, this isn't me. This is not what I'm about. Like, a lot of people didn't operate from integrity, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of a nasty in company, to be honest. And yeah, I hit up Spencer, and I was just like, dude, like, I don't even remember if it was Spencer or Sean. Those are the two owners. And I ended up working for them for free and like helping them with social media, and that's when everything changed for me, because I was living in a different city at that time. I moved to Grand Rapids, which is another part of Michigan, living with one of my friends. And then when I left the AT&T job, I moved in with my grandma because I had no more income.
Uh-huh.
So moved in with my grandma, was like, I'm going to work for Vibe Source for free. And then I did that. In the interim of all of that, I ended up getting like a really like kind of like $15 an hour type job at a
Uh-huh.
float center. If
At a
you,
float
do
center,
you know what
okay.
floating is?
Like yeah,
Sensory
yeah, float
sensory
tanks.
deprivation tanks.
Yeah.
Yep. So I did that and worked for VibeSource for free and just started to build the skill set, which I now use in my everyday life for social media.
So you mentioned, first of all, Bob Proctor, was he affiliated at all with Vibe? Because you mentioned like you kind of encountered him through that, or was that just because you were getting more into personal development yourself?
You mean Vima?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vima. Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
His wife was a distributor in the company.
Okay.
So at their seminars, like they had conferences, he would teach a segment on like he would come at their conferences and teach about the law of attraction and essentially be like a resource to inspire the people like me in the company to be better, learn more skill sets, use their mind and create circumstances. So yeah, that's how I originally met him and
Yeah.
learned from him, read his books. It started there. But then when Vimo went under, my homie Spencer started working directly for him and like doing
Gotcha.
his social media and stuff like that.
And how like was Spencer also kind of like a high earner within Vima?
No,
Was he like one of those? No.
no, he was just he actually worked on like helping people in the company tell their stories through videography. So he was like a really talented filmer and stuff. So he worked on like the different people's like YouTube channels, like the guy Luke I was telling you about, who was making like $20,000+. Like he would help him make content and different people inside of the company like that. And that's where it all when it went under, he transitioned and he might have even done it before. I don't know his story to be honest, but he transitioned to working directly with Bob Proctor and like helping Bob Proctor with his social media and different things like that.
And what did you meet Spencer and Sean? Did you meet them at one of these kind of like seminars for Vima or?
So Spencer went to Michigan State.
Mhm.
We met in passing a handful of different times at these different conferences, as well as he was just friends with that same group of people.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's very cool. I mean, it makes so much sense that like a company like that, like where it's like a bunch of like-minded entrepreneurial people,
Young,
just like
yeah.
yields so many opportunities.
Oh man, almost
And
everybody who was in that company who I keep in tabs with through like Facebook and Instagram, some of them are wildly successful, like
yeah,
wildly, like worth hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them.
how did you just? So you guys were buddy with Spencer when you reached out and Sean.
Associates, we weren't close
Okay.
homies, but we knew each
Yeah.
other.
All right. And so you start working with this company that they start Vibe Source.
Yes.
What was that like? Like you were working for free. Where were the first couple weeks like? I mean, it must have been super exciting for you because you were big fan of Bob Proctor. It seems like, right? And you're like now you get to kind of work and helping them further their mission, right? So what was that like?
Man, like it was amazing. I wasn't like a lot of people I think would not see it as face value because I wasn't making any money. But to me, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is going to turn into something. And I was
Mm,
so willing to learn and I was so excited to be a part of like something bigger. Um, and it felt like for me, I was back on track because like the sales job with AT&T, it just wasn't me. I did that out of like just kind of need of like I need to make money.
mm-hmm.
And this felt more aligned with what I really wanted to do, which was to spread positive messages. Vibe Source, it stands for visualize. It's a VYBE, visualize yourself better
Mm-hmm.
every day. And yeah, it was really awesome. They were like really good at creating social media content. Their page was fire. Like it was super small, like 60,000 or 50,000, maybe less, 40,000 followers at the time. Now they have over 1 million. But yeah, I don't necessarily know if I remember the first 2 weeks exactly, but all I know is I was super stoked to be a part of it.
What did they? So you're kind of like an intern, right? It seems like in the
Totally. Yes,
beginning.
exactly.
Um, what were your responsibilities? A lot of times, like you come in kind of as like the hustler, so you kind of take on like whatever comes up, right?
That's
What was that for
exactly
you?
it. Yeah, I was doing anything and everything, man. Like responding to customer service emails, like just anything I could get my hands on. To fast forward to make the story a little bit more interesting, I ended up getting really close with Spencer, who his main thing was filming, editing, but I actually started learning how because I really felt called to learn videography. Just I
Mm-hmm.
saw it as a tool I could use later in life maybe. I don't fully know what the mindset was, but I was very drawn to it and he was like amazing at it. So I just got really close with him. We started becoming good friends. We started hanging out a lot. I would go to his house, he would come to my place, and I started to learn from him really. And then I just took the initiative to like really make this something where I'm gonna like, I don't want to do this customer service bullshit anymore. Like I want to be a video editor. Like that's my thing. I'm gonna master. So
Yeah.
yeah, I started learning like through YouTube videos on like the basics of video editing and taking the skill set to a next level, because Spencer was, busy living his life and doing his own thing for the business. So he didn't have time to like take me on as like an apprentice fully or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, my mindset was always like, because Bob Proctor talked about how, like, through the law of compensation, you get paid in direct proportion to how much value you bring to the marketplace. So I was like, how can I bring more value? How can I bring more value to this company? How can I bring more value? And then, they ended up obviously putting me on a salary, and that was amazing. And then fast forward again, Spencer and I got really close. This was like a 2 or 3 year process, roughly in this time, about 2 years, a little bit over. He had an opportunity to come out to LA to make a documentary for a personality called Logan Paul, who most people know who he is. And he was
Hmm.
like, "Bro, do you want to go?" And it had always been a dream of mine to move to LA. And like this was all happening so fast. Like there was no heads up. It was just like, yo, if we're moving to LA, we have to move like in 3 days because we need to be there when they start filming. I was more of like just the tag along guy at this point, and I didn't even uh, fully care. I was just freaking
Yeah.
down.
You're like, let's fucking do
Yeah,
it.
I'm like, I'm in. So yeah, I told my family, I'm like, all right, moving to LA. Like, see you guys. So I moved out of my grandma's house, which that alone at 21 years old, that brought a lot of lessons. It was very humbling. Yeah, man, everything changed. Like everything changed. Like I was out of Michigan, this like cold kind of place, and I felt like this was like the right thing to do. And it was amazing, man. I started like meeting all these famous people and like helping them. And Spencer was really the one like guiding all of this, but I was helping
Yeah.
him and he was helping them. So we ended up doing a lot of amazing things with Logan, mainly Spencer, but I got to see it all kind of unfold because it was all through the company Vibe Source. So my role started
Yeah.
growing in new ways where I was no longer just behind the camera, or sorry, editing behind the computer. There was times where he was like, yo, we need help shooting today, or we need help with audio. So I started picking up these different skills that I could use to help him and the company and everyone there with these different personalities in LA. So I'm 21. I'm working with some of the like most famous people in the world. It was a very exciting time. I did that for a while, and then things really changed for me when I started to kind of get back to my roots of like personal development and growth. Because like again, amazing people, but their priorities in life are a little bit different. And I felt that I wanted more. Like I still wasn't like, it was great for like 6 months or a year or however long it was. Like it was
Hmm.
amazing. Like I was hanging out with celebrities all the time. Like it was really cool. But
Yeah.
a part of my like soul was like aching. And at that same time, this is where my story from earlier comes in, where my friend group wasn't really like outside of Spencer, like he was really my only friend who was like ambitious and motivating, inspired me to be the best version of myself. But my other friend groups, like when I wasn't with him, because another part of the story, when we moved to LA, we lived in the same house
Okay.
or apartment. And within 2 weeks, he moved out and moved into Logan's house. And I
Oh,
didn't even have
wow.
my car. Like we took his car here. Like it was just like a total wing it. So I was like, when I wasn't with him, I was just like around people who like I was saying earlier, wasn't the best peer group.
Do you have any cool stories of working behind the scenes with Logan and Spencer?
Well, I met Logan at a really interesting part in his journey
Hmm.
where he was just coming off of his like big controversy about like filming a dead person.
Yeah.
So when I met Logan, he was extremely depressed, which I don't even know if anybody knows like what he went through, but he was in a really bad place. And I felt like Spencer and I were a huge, huge, huge influence on helping him get out of that dark place and introducing him to different things like meditation and just, reading and just mindfulness in general. Um, the very first day, this is kind of a cool story. The very first day that I met Logan, Spencer and him were going on a skydiving, like
Mm-hmm.
jumping out of planes. And Logan was essentially doing that because like he was so numb, man. He was so like
He wanted to feel
he
something.
wanted to feel something, yeah. So him and Spencer like got obsessed with like doing this, and Spencer's like, "Hey, we're gonna film. Like, we need you to help." So I was like, "Dude, cool." So I like met Logan, and it was a really cool experience. And then that day, he jumped out of like they were doing like because they're trying to get their skydiving license, and you have to do like a crazy amount of jumps. It's like 30 or 40 or 50 jumps or something crazy. So you just go one after another. Like you land, you go back up at the plane because you need to hit the requirements. It was just crazy, man. Logan went and he jumped. It was I don't remember what jump it was, but his parachute didn't open, so he had to pull his reserve parachute, which is so rare, especially in training. Like that never
Yeah.
happens. Like the people were telling us like that they've never seen it in the history of this company of like whatever 50 years of being in business. They had never seen that. It's like, of course, Logan, out of all people, this would happen. So that was the first day I met him. And this is when I knew he was different. That happened. He freaked out. And then he's like, I'm going to go jump again. And then he literally, like, he almost died. Like, his parachute didn't open. It was tangled. And then his reserve was actually a little tangled too. And he actually has a video of it on his YouTube. If you look at it, like, he's free falling through the air for a good amount of time. And then, like, didn't die.
Fuck.
And then when he landed, he was like, well, the probabilities of that happening again are mathematically like it's 0%. So I'm just going to go again. And I was like, dude, like that's crazy. So that was my first experience meeting him.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool
That's
story.
wild.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, me and
And
Spencer
so
were like, dude, you're crazy.
that's some mindset right there though, where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
like it's almost like I have to face this fear again. Otherwise it's like it's gonna hold me back the rest of my life type thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people who are very successful in life, someone like Logan, he's not looked at as like a figure who is wise, so to speak, like a Bob
Mm-hmm.
Proctor or a Jack Canfield, but he's applying the same principles subconsciously.
Yeah. How closely were you working with Logan? Because it seems like so Spencer was living with him,
Yes.
and then you were back in the house that you guys originally were living
Yep.
in together. You're probably doing a bunch of editing for Spencer, I'm assuming.
Yep. Vibe source. Yep.
And then for Vibe Source, yeah. And then I'm sure like you kind of like came to the house from time to time whenever you're needed. Is that how
Oh
it
man,
worked?
no, I went there as much as I possibly could.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you were there
like
pretty much every day to film like a second camera kind of or
at a point I was there almost every day, yeah. And they might not even have been there, but like I was just going there just to like not be alone in my apartment, to be honest, cuz I kind of went through a dark time where I was like super lonely. Like I just, when you move to a new
yeah.
city, it's like it went through that like weird transition. So I tried to be around them as much as possible. And we also like Spencer and I, we were working on the same business with each other. So it was like it was just good to like work around somebody else.
So
So
you're
yeah,
working from the house pretty much.
for the most part, yeah.
Gotcha.
Probably for like a good like 5-6 month period.
And what did that look like? Was it like were you guys shooting the vlogs or were you working on vibe source stuff kind of like unrelated to Logan stuff as well or
Yes, exactly. Spencer would be the one shooting the vlogs, and I was just more working on my own thing, just but physically at their house. And it was never
Mhm.
a dull moment, so it was really fun. Um,
So you still had other clients during all this
well,
time?
no, working on Vibe Source.
Yeah, yeah. So Vibe Source had other clients than Logan, right? Or
Yes.
yeah, Logan was one of your clients, but you had a couple.
Logan, yeah, was a client of Vibe Source, but Vibe Source, like there was two parts of the business. There was like that part with Logan and stuff. Then there was another
Mhm.
part where we partnered with different companies like numerology and more of a spiritual based content. So I was making a lot of content for those purposes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then one more story I kind of want to hear. It from your Instagram, it seemed like you went to Italy with them. Was that another
Oh
like was
my
that a good
God.
story or?
Yeah, well, that's a good transition point because that's actually the place I was at when I got the phone call that I was going to go to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event, which is another story maybe we can get into. But yeah, Italy was a riot, man. We went there. I was doing a tour all through Europe. I was in London before then for a Vibe Source conference, or not a Vibe Source conference, but a conference I got invited to for Vibe Source. Spencer couldn't go because he was too busy with the Logan. So myself and the other owner went to London, and I
Mm-hmm.
spoke at the conference talking about like social media and like how to create viral videos because I got really good at the skill set of editing, and I had multiple videos that went viral that were ads, which were making Vibe Source like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yeah, I guess I'll before I go into the Italy, I'll tell this part because so you'll see the connection.
Okay.
So in London, and before I got to London, to backtrack a little bit so this can all make sense, I had just started reading and becoming really obsessed with one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Amazing book, highly recommend everybody read it. And yeah, I started like doing his meditations, and I really started to fall in love with what he was teaching, and I thought it was really awesome. And in that time, I got invited to speak at this conference, which was like a huge deal. It was a mastermind with very, very highly influential and successful conscious entrepreneurs. They were all people like really in a space of like law of attraction, meditation, numerology, astrology, stuff like that. And they were digital companies like selling digital products,
Mm-hmm.
but like on a massive level. And they wanted to learn what these Vibe Source guys were doing, these young guys who were driving like all these like different products and sales. So myself and Sean, who were really the head of those things, got invited to speak. So I spoke and it was amazing. But while I was there, I don't know what happened, but there was this guy, Mike. And for whatever reason, I brought up the fact that, or I don't know if it was he who brought it up or I brought it up about like how I'm reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's book. And he like asked me if I had ever been to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event. And I didn't even know he did events. Like I didn't even really cross my mind. And I was like, no, but I would love to go. He's like, oh, like he has one. Oh, you know what it was? I remember now. I remember now. While I was in a conversation talking to him about this book I'm reading,
Mm-hmm.
the girl I was talking to at the time texted me and said, hey, Dr. Joe is doing an event in Cancun. You should see if like there's any tickets available. So that is what enticed me to bring it up to this random Mike guy who I was acquaintance with but didn't know super well. And I was like, do you know Dr. Joe Dispenza? Like this and that, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, dude, I love Dr. Joe. Like I've been to 5 of his events. You would totally love it. Da, 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 da. And I was like, yeah, this girl I'm talking to just told me about his event in Cancun, but it's sold out. Like I went to his website, it was sold out. And he was like, oh, you should talk to Glenn, who was at this same conference that we were all at. He works directly with Dr. Joe. And I was like,
No way.
what? I was like, Glenn works with Dr. Joe. This makes no sense. Like, how? So it was like a massive, massive synchronicity. And the cool thing about this event, I believe it was 8 days or 7 days. It was pretty long. So you got to know everybody really well. And I just got really close with Glenn. And I ended up asking him, I was like, dude, like Mike told me you work with Joe. I'm a huge fan. I do all his meditations. Like, I love his book. I would love to, like if there's any strings you could pull, I would love to go his event in Cancun. Like, I don't know if that's asking too much. I was just like really excited, like from such a genuine place.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, bro, I'll take care of you. Like, he's Australian. He's like, all right, mate, I'll take care of you. I remember this so vividly because it was like so profound. So the conference goes amazing. At that same time, Spencer was training for an Ironman, and it was in Italy where he was going to do the Ironman himself. Well, I was already in
Okay.
London, so I was like, why would I go back home? So I stayed in like, I went to like the Netherlands, and then him, our buddy Andre, Logan, Andy, and I think, did Dwarf Mama come? I don't remember if Evan came, but yeah, they all came to Italy, and I went there too because I was already in Europe and I wanted to support Spencer. So this is where the story kind of ties in. And this was probably like 2 or 3 weeks after the London conference I went to and where I met Glenn.
Okay.
And one more point about that story is he just said he'll take care of me. I didn't really fully know what that meant. Like there was nothing tangible happening. The event for Joe was like in less than 60 days. It was pretty soon.
He's just like, I got you.
Yeah, he's like, I got you. I was like, all right. Like, what the hell does
For
that
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Right. So fast forward, I'm in Italy. Spencer's doing his thing. I remember vividly, we rented an Audi to drive around in Italy, like go to these different spots because he made a documentary about him being an Ironman athlete as a vegan. And I remember this. I'll probably remember this till the day I die because it was such a big manifestation. I get a call. I'm in Italy, driving down the highway with my boys, get a call from Glenn. And it was funny because when he gave me his phone number, he put a picture of himself in my phone. So like his face, like it just totally threw me off. I was like,
That's
Glenn's
so
calling
good.
me. I was like, oh shit. He probably has
That's
some
a good
news.
trick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I answer, and I'll never forget this. He was like, do you want the good news or do you want the effing great news? And I was like, dude, lay it on me. He's like, well, we got you a free event ticket. And keep in mind, this is like a $2,000 ticket to the Joe
Wow.
event. Free event ticket, free flight, and free 5-star hotel stay for 8 days in Cancun, Mexico. Don't have to pay $1. He was like, we'll pay for the taxi to and from the airport, everything covered. All you have to do is volunteer with my company, Mind Movies, which helps Joe's company at the events. And it's free. It's like, he's like, it's about like maybe 10 hours of work through the span of the week, but you get to do all the event, everything fully paid for. Are you in? Are you out? I was like, dude, I'm in.
Damn.
I'm like, dude,
When
I'm
he says,
in.
I got you, he really means it.
Yeah, Glenn is an amazing human. So is his partner Natalie, who I'm really close friends with now. And yeah, so I was freaking out. Like my friends had no idea why I was so excited. But this was huge for me because it was like something that should have been impossible became possible because I believed something was going to happen. And like there was so many things from the universe lining up that moment. So I go to this event, or sorry, I know you wanted to talk about a funny thing that happened in Europe with Logan and those guys.
Mhm.
A memory that I remember was when Spencer was finishing the Ironman. I think it was Logan and myself. We had the idea to jump over the go into the actual race and like get behind Spencer, and like I was filming and Logan was like cheering him on, which is like totally, you're not supposed to do that. But we did it
To
anyways.
finish the race with him.
Yeah. So like the last like quarter of a mile, we finished it with him, and it was super fun, and that was a really good memory. And there was multiple other ones where we went like to the clubs and stuff, and like Logan was just getting like bombarded by all these fans, just like chaos, all these Italians. Just lots of funny memories. Yeah, it was also my birthday too, so we had a really good time.
That sounds like a good time. Yeah.
That's the story. And then yeah, so I go to this Joe Dispenza event, and keep in mind at this time I was still working with Vibe Source. And yeah, it was just incredible. Like I really got to go like really deep at this week-long event with myself, and like all these different meditations and different things he was doing to help people transform. And he backs it all by neuroscience. So it's not like woo-woo stuff that isn't practical. Like it's very, very practical. And he has evidence.
You know the crazy thing?
Go ahead.
He is the most popular episode ever on Impact Theory.
Oh, really?
Did you know that? Yeah.
It
Like
doesn't
if you
shock
go,
me.
like literally, it's a couple million now, but it's like it's the
Wow.
most viewed episode ever on the YouTube channel. That's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. Which means that his stuff really resonates with strikes a chord with people.
Oh, massively. So, yeah, so many people, man, full evidence healing from all types of crazy stuff. Like people who were blind seeing, all evidence documented, like
Mm,
the scans of the eye and the brain, like being gray and like not active, and then after the event, full sight. So just crazy
wow.
stuff happening. So yeah, I went to that event and I had my own massive shifts in myself. Like energetically, I felt I had worked through so much of my own baggage from my past. And when I was in one of the meditations, I actually had the thought of, what if I could make this my life? Like experiencing this, like this level of like transformation, as well as sharing this with more people, because I was like, nobody knows who this guy is. Like he had like 50,000 followers on Instagram. And I was like, this is like some deep stuff happening here. This is fun. I could get behind this. I could believe in this. I had that thought in his own meditation at his own event.
Wow.
And because I was volunteering, I was actually eating dinner with him and his staff, like after the event. So I was kind of getting to know everybody. And yeah, man, I just had that thought of like, what if that is possible? And I was like, it is possible. And a big part of like his work is manifestation and like being a creator and like creating your reality. And yeah, man. So what happened was, I was supposed to leave that event Sunday at like 1 o'clock, which is like right when the event ends. But one of the people I met said, like, no, you have to stay Sunday evening, because that's when like the fun comes out. That's when everybody like kind of lets go. The event's over. Like everyone just like, they're laid back. They have some wine. Everyone has fun. And I was like, man, like I gotta get back to work. Like 7, 8 days not working on vibe source stuff. I was like, that's just like, I turned my phone off too. First time I had ever done that in my life. Spencer and Sean were cool with me doing that. And yeah, I was just like, I don't know. But then that morning, Sunday morning, I just had this feeling of like, you have to stay. It was like an intuitive feeling,
Uh-huh.
like you have to stay. So I emailed the travel agent. I was like, I don't care what it costs, whatever it is, boom, make me stay. And then I went into the meditation, and then I came back, and like she emailed me back and she was like, you're all good. You're leaving Monday. So here's where it gets interesting. That night, we're at dinner. It's the last night. Everyone's kind of loose, having fun. And I just get this thought of like, I need to go pitch him. Like, I need to go tell him I can blow him up. And I
And at this
did.
point, you're working for Vibe Source. You
Still
don't
working for
have like
Vibe Source at
your
this
own
time.
company or agency on the side.
Nope, not yet. And I had done what I did for him, and later on when the story comes full circle, for other people through Vibe Source, names I can't really name unfortunately, but
Hmm.
I knew the skill sets. I had all the skill sets. I did it for multiple people.
So you're
So,
trained to kind of like pitch already around this area of expertise, like
well, I
social.
was never really involved in the sales process. I was more
Hmm.
involved in the creator role. Spencer and Sean usually took care of that stuff, and I was more of like the creative guy, getting all the views and whatnot.
So
So
were you doing specifically, was it social media stuff before?
yeah, full blown social
Yeah.
media stuff,
So
editing,
clips and
all
stuff.
that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Okay.
really good at creating like viral videos and all that good stuff. So yeah, so I just go right up to him and I just pitched him, and I was like, man, I had such a transformative week. I would love to be a part of what you're doing, and I know I can massively help you and communicate to a new audience. And he loved it. He loved my passion, and the rest was history. Started
What
working.
what was the pitch like? Like were you like, I have this track record, I've done this for other people, like what did that look like?
I was so caught up in the moment, I don't fully remember. But I was like, I said something along those lines of like, yeah, I this is what I do. I'm really good at social media. I have the skill set. Like me and my friends, we blow up spiritual leaders, essentially, something along the lines of what I said. And yeah, and that was it. And he was like, go talk to this person, which was like his right hand person. And I told her what was going on, and uh, that was it. And they said they'll contact me. So I came home back to LA, and I I'm just like totally blown away at what I just created. Nothing was set in stone though. Like it wasn't like, yeah, for sure, like signed contract. Like, no, not yet.
Yeah.
And I came home and I just started like um having kind of like a change of heart for stuff with Vibe Source. And I kind of got in like a little bit of a argument with those guys, Spencer and Sean, and we're close homies today. This is all behind us now, so I'm okay to
Hmm.
talk about it. But yeah, we just had like a falling out where I was just like, I don't want to just be a video editor anymore. Like I'm so much more than that. But the company really needed someone on that like full time. So I ended
Yeah.
up quitting like that same day I got home. No
Wow.
plan, nothing. I quit. Done. And keep in mind, like income gone, like not much saved in LA, but I knew the thing with Joe would go through. I just knew it.
You had a
Just,
gut feeling.
I
Yeah.
just knew it in my heart, man. I just knew it in every part and ounce of my being. So for 3 weeks, I had nothing to do. Like there was nothing for me to do, like in the sense of work. So I just meditated. I kept tuning into the possibility of working with Joe Dispenza, and then it all happened. And then they finally contacted me, and yeah, it was a great ride.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's a wild story, top to bottom.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And I mean, so how was that like starting your own agency? Like those 3 weeks, right? Then you have your first client, which is
Hmm.
like significant client, right?
Hmm.
To start off with. Like what was it like just starting that agency and growing it?
Well, it wasn't anything I hadn't done before, so it
Hmm.
didn't feel too foreign. Like I was fully confident in all my abilities. And like I said, I had the track record through Vibe Source. I knew how to do it. It wasn't
Hmm.
like I was just winging it with this big fish, you know? Um,
But now you're having to like start your own business entity, like do
mhm,
more of the relational work. It seems
mhm.
like, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's kind of there is like a different skill set. It seems like that you still have to kind of like stretch into, right?
Yeah, I had to really hone in on communicating with like different influencers, which is how I grow spiritual leaders through my company now. Is we have like a massive like group of influencers in the spiritual
Hmm.
space that we pump their content through. And I never really fully was in on those conversations with Vibe Source, but a lot of those people just were also kind of like some of my close homies who had these big pages. So that was kind of like a learning curve for me. But man, I was so high on like the fact of like I'm doing this by myself and like my income jumped significantly, like, you know, really much higher than it was. And um I was just like, I'm so confident. I was just like nothing was gonna be a hiccup in the road or a fork in the road. But it is funny because I was so high that I actually didn't even have an LLC before I had him. Yeah, I was just my mind wasn't there. Like
Yeah.
I was creation mode, man, and I had to like
Yeah.
scurry and like get my LLC set up, and it was hilarious.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then what was like how long did it take until you started reaching out to new clients? That's another leap, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't reach out to anybody. People started reaching out to me. um, because my name just kind of got out because Joe was such a um, he was already pretty known in like the world, but his social media presence wasn't the best.
Hmm.
So he started growing like really rapidly, and those people are connected. They have different friends and different people who just get the information, and one thing led to another, and I started yeah, people just I would get emails from different people in the spirituality space, and yeah, I started working with other spiritual leaders, and then that's really when my company started to take form in a really big way because I went from like one client to like four in like a really fast like 6 month time frame. But I was just one
Wow.
person. And then I realized like this isn't there's no way. Like there's no possible way I can do all of this. So, started hiring people, and um just it really all just fell into place in a really magical way. But the company till this day, I have never advertised the company, and now we've worked with some of the most well-known spiritual leaders in the world, And never once did I try to market, nothing. I don't even have a website. Like,
I noticed, man. It's great because like,
yeah.
what is this? What is this? What is the company called?
It's
I
called
am
I Am
powerful or something
Powerful.
like. I am powerful LIC, and I was like trying to look it up, and I was like, dude doesn't have a website.
Nope.
It's very interesting, but yeah, it's all referral based, which is freaking crazy. Like I think was it Joe directly that was referring you, or was like people here
No.
that you've worked with him, and so they
Yeah, it
start
was just
reaching
like
out and
people
stuff. Yeah.
through like who knew him, been in his community, or were in his community and had friends of a similar
Yeah.
stature, and they would just refer me. I would never ask. Like it was
Yeah.
just, it was literally, and Joe talks about this, like your creations start to come right towards you. And I was
Yeah.
going to his events, so I was applying everything I was learning through him, and I was getting really crazy results. I mean, like from just a solely financially standpoint, like things were getting insane for me. I was like, oh my God, like this is wild.
And so, you mentioned before that first event you were at, you were like, what if I could have this level of transformation like on a daily basis, right?
Yes.
It seems like you basically that became the case
Yeah,
by like.
it became my life.
Mhm.
And not only did I have transformation, but I also was a catalyst for millions of other people's transformation through spreading messages of transformation outside of Joe, other
Mhm.
people too. And
Yeah.
it just became my life. It was incredible. Until this day, it's now fast forward. We work with a handful of different spiritual leaders, and I have a team of 7 people or 6 people now, and it's rapidly growing. So it's amazing. And in the whole like full spectrum of the story, I've almost met, besides one person, I've met every single person from The Secret
Wow.
and worked with a lot of
Yeah.
them too.
That's yeah.
Wild, right? And it just goes to show like it's not that I'm something special, but
Yeah.
when you're connected and know how to manifest, you
Mhm.
don't need a website. Like you
Yeah.
don't need this stuff. If you're truly
Mhm.
creating from the field, which Joe talks about, like 5D
Yeah.
reality, um, you don't need to go anywhere to go do things. They start coming towards you because you become like a magnet, and your thoughts like are like fishing lines in a sense, and the feelings draw everything back to you. So it's wild, man. So it's all this
That's
happened by design in my mind, my soul. Like it was all intentional. So
it all starts with that vision.
yes.
So what like one of the big, I think I told you at the beginning of the show, like the themes of the podcast that I want to kind of communicate through is what value and transformation you can get from kind of working behind the scenes with these people that you look up to personally, right? And that in a sense it's the closest form of mentorship that you can get. At least that was my experience working with Tom and now with Noah. I want to ask you kind of what the biggest lessons you've learned from, I mean, all the clients you've worked with, like working with them behind the scenes, and like how has working for them contributed to your personal transformation?
There's two sides of that coin. I'll speak to both because I think it's important. Not everybody I worked with ended well. Like,
Okay.
because I blurred the lines too much between being a student of them and a business relationship. And, I think there was everybody I have and work with now and have worked with in the past have all been massive blessings in my life because they all have their own unique flavor of this, really the same message, but just in different context. So I got to learn not only through their books, but I also got to see them applying this in their lives, which is really kind of cool because you can kind of
Hmm.
see like masters in action in a sense, and you get kind of a look behind the curtain. But on the same side of that, I've had similar experiences where it was like the Wizard of Oz, where you see behind the curtain and you're just like, that's not in alignment with what you're talking about. Um, but at the end of the day, I really learned that in thinking I didn't have the power and that I always needed a teacher, I kept hitting glass ceilings because I was relying on somebody else for my own power.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking like I need them, like they're the savior or whatever was happening. So I really learned to own myself fully and unapologetically and just be my authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's made me grow so much personally because now like I still read all the time. I learn from all my clients and they're all amazing people, but I don't give them my power. I don't
Mm-hmm.
let them tell me answers about myself because I go to a different source. I don't go to a human anymore. I go to God, the universe, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. That's my real teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to learn to just really own myself fully. So that's been a huge blessing. And when I show up with that energy to other powerful spiritual leaders, they respect you so much more because you no longer are putting anybody on a pedestal and you're talking to them as an equal. And most people don't do that.
It feels like you almost have to kind of be behind the scenes and kind of like experience that, like go through that disciple mentality to kind of
Yes,
like get over it and be like, oh, these people are just normal people.
exactly.
Like if they can do this, like I have exactly the same power that they have, right?
Exactly. That is spot on. And that's why now at this point in my business, I'm no longer so much in the business where I more own the business because my team knows the skill sets because I've taught them all and
Mm-hmm.
they go at it. And now with my time, I really focus on building my own thing, building my own brand, sharing my podcast, my message, breath work now, because another part of the story, my girlfriend and I now teach breath work to people.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my both teachers and clients, some of them have all had profound impacts on my life. And I really got to learn like, oh, this part of their teaching, that works for me. This part, I don't fully resonate with. And then another teacher,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. And now I just kind of like put my own model of understanding. And a lot of my message today is like, don't get caught up on one teacher. Don't get caught up
Mm-hmm.
on one lesson because if you think that's all there is, from my experience, you're missing out on more.
Yeah. What was the epiphany moment where you're like, I need to, like you mentioned the word, like work on my business versus work in my business, I think. Like when did you realize that that's like, I need to kind of get out of this and like try to delegate a little more and like scale this so I can do my own thing.
Mhm. To be honest, Tony Robbins was a huge impact in me in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know who Tony Robbins is, but he's one.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, he's
100%.
one of the most well-known spiritual leaders and people in the transformation space. But he really taught me about like he has a seminar called Business Mastery, which I attended, and
Okay.
that was
When was
huge.
that?
That was 20. That was just last year, beginning of 2020.
Okay. So right
Hmm.
before the pandemic.
Hmm. I think it was maybe it was middle of 2020 ish. Yeah, it was actually the middle because it was during the pandemic.
Okay.
It was
So
a
super
virtual one.
recent. Was this online or did you still
No,
like
no, this
meet in
was
person?
virtual.
Virtual. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, and
And what were your takeaways and lessons that you end up
well,
applying in the business?
I've always been like a solo entrepreneur where like I always did everything by myself. It's like even with Vibe Source, I was working with the team, but I was really working by myself within the team.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
once I started my own business, there's like different, and Tony talks about this, there's different levels of like entrepreneurs. There's like the people who will build a business and sell a business. And that's like where they get off, so to speak. There's other people who are like an artist type entrepreneur where they get so involved and in love with the craft, where it's like, for me, that was who I was. Cause like every piece of content had to be a certain way. Every
Mm-hmm.
photo with a quote had to be a certain way. And I would get
Yeah.
so obsessed that it was hard for me to scale because nobody met my standards. But
Yeah.
I had to let that go, which I learned through Tony, is like, nobody's going to do it as good as you do it, but you have to let them fall and give a chance. So I started like hiring people and incentivizing them in different ways and just letting go of the control and like letting it fail and like realizing like the average person actually is going to catch 99% of the things that I catch because I have a certain eye for this stuff because I've been doing it for so long. So I had to let that go. And Tony really talks about you can't be free. The reason people get into business is to be free. But what most
Mm-hmm.
people do is they never own the business. The business owns them. So they essentially have a glorified job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it may be high paying, but they're still like a slave to that job. And that was me. I mean, I was working 15 hours a week at times, or sorry, a day.
A day. Yeah.
Yeah, not a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I just realized like if I really want to go to the next level, I had to hone in on my business skills and just take it to like another level. And even before 2020, I was doing that, but just it was just so different once I learned some like different fundamentals from Tony, who's like a multi-billionaire and like owns 72 plus businesses. Like, so it was powerful.
I can totally relate. I feel like I'm just a couple steps behind you, where it's like I'm at that point where at some point I do think an agency is what makes sense for me. I do have that over controlling kind of like artist personality where it's like I want like you're so proud of your work. You just
Yes.
want it to be just the right way, and like you're like it matters,
Yes.
it feels like it matters at least. And so thanks for sharing that. I think that's something I have to work on personally.
Yeah, it's a conversation I have with a lot of my friends who are similar. It's you don't want to be the bottleneck for your own business. Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, it's so first of all, it's so stressful. Like so stressful, but your like intensity shouldn't like be a burden, but it should actually be a gift to set a standard for your company culture, which is
Mm-hmm.
like what it's done for me. Like everybody on my team, it's like they're reflections of me, where like in the beginning, they weren't as like meticulous. But
Yeah.
now, because I let them fail and then I told them, like, hey, this is what I would have done. And through time
Gotcha.
and letting go of the control, they learn
Yeah.
and they start to be like become reflections of you to like even to the point where some of them communicate in my language because they like just know me so well.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, it's
been
a common thing. I feel like from people that have started agencies on the podcast, like it seems like a common theme of like at first it's something everyone. I think if you're starting an agency, like you're really good at what you're doing. And so like then you start bringing on people and you like just want to keep that standard. And
yes,
like the mistake is you end up doing the work
yes,
for like instead of like you end up just like taking over the control and doing the work instead of letting them fail and then giving them feedback and really
exactly,
training them.
exactly. That's spot on. That is spot
Mhm.
on.
And so you started. It seems like you started implementing those lessons and kind of scaling your team up more towards the end of last year, right?
It really started in the middle probably of last year because I had already had a team going into
Mm-hmm.
2020. I had like 3 people or 4 people maybe, but it
Yeah,
was like shitty systems in place, horrible
yeah,
structure. And when I learned from Tony, like everything got like tied up because now I
yeah.
had the right information to apply what he was saying. And then that allowed me to just scale and not only scale, but free me in the process. So now we take on more clients, but I don't do any extra work because the system
So
is so strong.
I'm curious, now that you do have a team, how many hours a week would you say you spend working on the agency business?
It's probably about like maybe like 20 hours a week,
Nice.
give or
And
take.
what is most of the work look like now? Like your responsibilities?
It's more like overview, providing like feedback on certain edits for things. It's a lot of team meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I always love like I actually have fun representing the company. So when
Yeah.
it comes to meeting with the clients, I like to do that. So I do a lot of like it's more just like high level stuff, meeting, overseeing, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Um, and then how many clients are you guys managing right now?
Right now we have 6.
6 clients. Okay. And that kind of segues into what I would talk about next, which is what we talked about at the beginning of this call, which is it seems like the agency model, like coming from kind of this is kind of like the model I see a lot of the guests on the show have, right? Which is they go and they work for an expert, and they develop a skill set and become very very good at a certain skill set that's basically useful to anyone that's trying to influence people in the world, right? To spread a message,
Yep,
um,
interchangeable.
to have an impact, yeah. And so once you have that, like a lot of people go and they start their own agency, right? Take on their own clients, scale that, and kind of that becomes like a really good source of revenue, right? Because it allows you to build a team and kind of like leverage your work, right?
Yep.
So you're in a good financial position basically.
Yep.
And then it seems like the third step to that is kind of the passion project, right? Where it's like kind of what you care most about, as far as like almost like your purpose, right? Where you find what you find your purpose to be in life, right? And like what message you want to spread out into the world, to focus more on that. Like now that you have more time, you've regained time, and you're generating income without having to like spend like 60-hour weeks, right? Like now you're able to put that energy into kind of building your own brand and like spreading your message and like having your own impact and influence, almost like following the path of like the mentors you've worked for all this time, right? So what are those projects for you right now? We've kind of touched upon them, but I'd love to hear about them in more depth.
Yeah. So one of the biggest projects, which is like low key, if you go on my social media, it's not talked about a whole lot. And even my social media business, it's not talked about a whole lot. I like to share more of
Mm-hmm.
my mindsets, my beliefs, my philosophies, stuff like that. Cause that's really where, segueing this conversation, that's where like my heart and soul lights up. It's like I love the agency and I love like working with all these different spiritual leaders, man. It's been like spiritual university for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so many things from all these interesting people, and some of them have like super crazy gifts, man, that have helped me heal
Yeah.
and all types of stuff. So in that, I am like you said, like freeing myself up from a business sense, owning the business, not letting the business own me. And it fueled like I studied with Wim Hof back in beginning of 2020. And even before him, when I did my first breathwork session, I got so obsessed with breathwork because I was like, holy shit, like this just cured my anxiety. Like I want to share this with everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
I just started doing like a lot of different like Wim Hof breathing with myself as well as with my friends. And it just happened a very organic way where one of my homies invited me to guide a breathwork session for him and like I think it was like 7 or 8 different athletes, just his friends at the beach one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I'm in, like, let's do it. So I guided them through like a breathwork journey and everybody loved it. Like they had such amazing experiences. And at this time I had just really me and my girlfriend were just kind of fresh in the relationship, brand new. She came with me and she was like supporting in a way. And yeah, it just kind of like started to take off in a very organic way. And keep in mind, this is a few years back and it was a very slow process, but slowly people would like from that original 7 people, people started like saying, hey, do you do private sessions? Like I would love for you to guide my family. So
So just to clarify, you started this kind of like as a side project. Was this like
just for
while
fun,
you
really.
You were still at Vibe Source at the time, or was that like when you
No,
started the agency?
this was right after Vibe Source.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So when I started the company and started like just in my free time, like I was practicing different modalities and stuff that was
Mm-hmm.
just in my own practice. Like every morning I would do breath work and meditation. Like that was just I wasn't teaching it though. I was just doing it. And then
Yeah.
yeah, it just happened like super organically, like just kind of fell into my lap. And then like I said, people started inviting me to their houses and my girlfriend and I would just go and guide them. And then just that was very big referral based, started going to other people's houses. And then I started like mastering the skill set more, studied with Wim Hof, like did all that, learned from different breathwork teachers to really hone in on the skill. And then the pandemic hit. So that was never really a business that was big or anything. Like it was just more like for fun, for service.
Yeah.
Then the pandemic hit and we're like, wow, like people need this now more than ever. Everybody's in fear, everyone's freaking out. How do we give back? So we did a few different online virtual, we just did it for free breathwork sessions where, at one of ours had over 3,000 people join in.
Wow.
And yeah, that was like at the beginning of the pandemic.
Did you advertise it like with Facebook ads and stuff, or?
So that one, going back to my business, is I leveraged my influencer connections that we did for my clients.
Mm,
But I just built a more personal relationship with these people. I was like, hey guys, like my one homie Billy, Forbidden Knowledge, one of my good friends now, he has a really massive following, had like over 1 million followers. And I was just like, listen, man, like this is my idea. Like I just want to give back. I know you have a huge following. Like we can like split the emails. Like let's just do it, man. And he was so on board. So we did this breath work. We like made ClickFunnels and the whole thing just for free. And we just got like overnight, like a 5,000 person email list. And
that's
then,
awesome.
yeah, and then 3,000 people showed up to the event. And it felt so right. And after that event, we received like hundreds of emails of like literally hundreds of people saying like that was the most life-changing thing I've ever done, da 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 da. And for me,
That's
that
so
was really
cool.
just a clear sign of like, okay, like I need to step into this more. And 2020 was a lot of that. And 2021, it's even more like we have an event here at our house actually it's a private event, but we're doing an event and for like a breathwork event. So it's really grown in a very very organic, fun way. We're now getting into more of the paid advertisements, and we're going to start doing a lot of online workshops. And we've done multiple since that first free one, but now it's paid, and we have the proof and concept. And it's our service, man. We give back, we help people heal, and we really share what we've learned along this journey. And for me, a big pillar, like we've talked about today, is the healing the anxiety. But now it's really not only healing, but tapping into the ability to create a new life and really just unfold into who you already are as your
Mm,
authentic self, as your higher self living through your physical self. And that's what I'm all totally passionate about, is helping people get to that place energetically. Because when you get there, you're like a light and you light everyone else around you. You don't got to do anything, but you got to be something. Like
mm.
it's an energy. People can feel it. It's a passion. It's the way you show up. So yeah, that's one big one. Another one is just growing my own brand too through the podcast. So my podcast is kind of low key right now. I think it's 5 or 6 episodes personally, but I've already interviewed like so many amazing leaders who are very well known. I'm not going to say any names because it's a secret, but
Gotcha.
who are going to be kind of announced on through the podcast, and they've come to my home or I've went to their home. It's video format, and I'm really looking forward to that because similar to you, you're a really good interviewer, and I never
Thank you.
realized how much I actually enjoy interviewing people and like pulling out their wisdom, because everyone's
Hmm.
got a message to share, and I want to help highlight that and just also become friends with more people through this way. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's another passion project, and I'm helping my girlfriend do the same. She helps me with breath work, and out of all the spiritual leaders I've worked with, she's by far the most profound leader I've ever met. But she's
Wow.
not like well known and famous. She actually
Yeah.
didn't even have Instagram when I first met her. but she is a real mystic in life. But
So she was already in the space.
she was, but she wasn't. She doesn't do this for a
Okay.
living. But
She's kind of like an intuitive, I guess.
yeah, she
Is
has
that, is
the
that what you're
gift.
saying?
She has the gift for sure.
Yeah.
So we do breath work together, and
That's awesome, dude.
it's very profound. Yeah, it's helped us on many levels, personally in our relationship, and it's really
Man.
fun to have a service oriented business with your partner because it challenges you in ways that I never been challenged before, because she's very like old school in her upbringing, and she's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna let me be someone I'm not on a camera, in an interview, at an event, if I'm not living that truth. And she holds me to that standard, and I hold her to that standard too. And it's helped us both evolve in such a beautiful way.
That's beautiful, man. It makes
Yeah.
me think of kind of Tom and Lisa. How
Actually,
they've
Irina loves their podcast, the
really
couples
the
theory.
relationship theory.
Yeah, she's actually had me tune in to a few of their episodes, and they're very open and transparent about their relationship, and man, it's
Yeah.
so helpful.
Yeah.
Most people don't open up like that. It's vulnerable, you know?
It's hard to find people that are, yeah, I mean, it's exactly kind of what you're doing right now, but like that are building a business together, and also people that are kind of like operating at like a high level like that
Yes.
have a healthy relationship, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I met them briefly, with Omar back in the day, and you
Mm-hmm.
could just see it in them that they are authentic.
Yeah.
And Irina and I definitely see us doing like a podcast in the future and sharing more of that. A lot of like we have a community of like a couple hundred people who are do weekly coaching calls with us and breathwork calls every month, and it's just a monthly subscription they pay for, and we both share both. We coach, but we also do breathwork. So people see it offline, like if they're inside of our like community, but the public doesn't really see it much. So we're in this year we're really gonna drive that home, because she's an entertainment banker. She manages $500 million at a bank. Um,
Wow.
so she's mega legit in real life. And now I'm here to help her bring her, gifts forward. Not all me. This is all her own decisions, but because I have that skill set, I'm really excited to bring our relationship and her forward as well in a new light to the public's eye. So
And if someone listening is interested in kind of like joining that mailing list or learning more about what you guys do for breath work, where
Mhm.
can they sign up or find
Yeah.
out more about that?
So my website, or our website right now, is under construction. But if they just
Okay.
follow me on Instagram, Anton Wisbiski, AntonWisbiski, and just shoot me a DM, I can share everything with them.
Very cool. And last question, since it seems like you dream big, I'm curious, like what's the vision for this breathwork business, for the podcast, and just for your life in general? What's like the 10-20 year plan?
So I don't operate off plans, because I have
Mm-hmm.
learned that we cannot predict how the universe is going to unfold to our vision. And
Mm-hmm.
in my evolution of like consciousness, so to speak, I've learned in that planning, I've actually lost some of the blessings that the universe would be willing to grant me, but I was too rigid in thinking I knew how it should work out, that I actually restricted the beauty of what the universe could give me. And when I just let go of that, and instead I had the vision of what's possible, the unfolding doesn't matter, just the end goal. I have learned that the universe actually blesses you with things that really your heart desires more, and not just your ego.
Mm.
So for with that said, I really am excited about just sharing, continuing to grow the agency. That's something that's going to be there, I think, for a very long time, if not forever, because I
Yeah.
have such intimate relationships with all my clients, and we do such a great job, and they get amazing results. I mean, it doesn't make sense to get rid of us. So that is like a system that's going to run itself, I think, for a long time. For me personally, as well as Irina, I see us growing very massively into like personalities that help people heal, help people break through. Like we call it interconnected breath work because it's not
Hmm.
one technique. I've learned from like 5 separate breathwork teachers. And again, similar to my social media business, I've taken what works, what doesn't work, and I've meshed it and experimented it. And now I share that with other people. So I really see us growing this to, reaching millions of hearts and souls all across the world, doing events. That's really both her and I, our focus. We want to do in-person events because we've done a few small ones, but pandemic, obviously you can't. And yeah, we're going to have like full scale personal brands where it's, we're essentially doing what I do for clients, but for ourselves. And yeah, man, I see it being like our lifelong mission where we're just impacting so many hearts and souls and helping people free themselves from the chains and re-experiencing who they truly are on a massive scale. And I think with my skill set, along with my abilities to help people heal through my experience, I see it unfolding very quickly. So we're very excited.
There you have it. I hope you got something out of this interview. I'm really trying to make this as valuable as possible to you. So if you have any feedback on how I can make this better, or if you have any questions for me personally, I'll get back to you. Reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is @JeremyJohnMary. You can also comment if you're watching on YouTube. You can just comment below. All right. Thanks for listening and have an epic week.